I spent 1 year in Minecraft, and my world has changed a lot. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to break down every change and the story so far.
Do you remember this?
I started off with this seed in 1.20 and crossed this mountain to enter this beautiful valley. But danger wasn't far from home in my MorningCraft series. I built my first starter home and a hedge to protect it. And then I hunkered down, gathering resources and coming up with amazing ideas. One of those ideas was so big that I thought I'd never manage it. By episode 15, my base was starting to take shape, I had some horses, and I began including cinematics into my videos.
Let me add a little bit of spice.
I built a huge aqueduct and used it to transport villagers into my village. Once I had them, I used a breeder, and suddenly the village was full of life. I then took a journey to the Nether, but the real danger was at home, where Drowned would ascend from my river and kill all of my villagers. So I lit it up and opened it up for my villagers to take a nice, safe swim. I then built a church for the village and a small tree farm to help gather the materials for future builds. But with this new farm across the water, I needed a bridge to help cross the river. I put my villagers to work with a beautiful little market, and then I built a tavern for the villagers. There's nowhere better to relax after a long day on the market. But things were starting to feel pretty cramped in my village, so I moved all of my farming to the other side of the river. And so I had to extend the secure section of the river a little bit further downstream. I built a lumberjack's house and upgraded my nether portal using a ton of amethyst. And then it was time for my first mega build. I built a market hall for my villagers to live and trade in. And with all of that done, the village was really starting to come together, but these hedges weren't going to cut it, so I built a huge set of walls to encompass the village. I built a new village in the farming area and attached an enchanting room to my nether portal. And at this point, my first building was feeling old and out of place, so I upgraded it for the first time with some extra details. I then began work on my second mega build, a huge castle based on one I've been to in the real world. I then built an ugly mob grinder, and it was so ugly that I had to disguise it as a water tower. It still looks terrible, I don't know why I did that. And then I expanded my farm. Next, I built a ton of houses for the villagers to live in. And I added a bunch of trees on top of the mountain to make it a little bit less hostile. I then headed back to the initial world spawn and built a huge iron farm that would give me all the iron I could possibly need. And then I blew up the entire castle.
What have I done?
But I released that on the 1st of April, so I undid it and got straight back to work.
Not today.
I built a lava farm and a clay farm, and then built a magnificent clock tower next to my original watchtower. And then it was time to do my first major expansion of the town. I dug canals all throughout the neighbouring land and encircled the nearby pillager outpost with what would become a huge coliseum. I expanded the walls to encompass the new lands and began to fill up the canal district with many, many new buildings. I built a beautiful nature reserve on the edge of the city and built a wonderful courthouse. I then built a market hall in what feels like an abandoned factory. But the unfinished Colosseum still loomed, and so I got back to work and finished it off. And to celebrate the strength of this new district and the warriors of the Colosseum, I built a huge statue of a warrior. I then added a bunch of details to the Colosseum and built this beautiful temple on the hilltop. I expanded the canal district with a bunch of farms and built the new walls to protect these. And around this time, conflict erupted in the story and wars began to be fought between the two districts of the city. The leader of Canalis was expelled for his treachery. And then it was time for my biggest build ever. I decided to build this colossal cathedral based on the real world Liverpool Cathedral. I started off with a rough framework and then I upgraded it as I went. But this build was so large that I got pretty tired halfway through and had to take a break. And so I built a few suggestions from the viewers. I built a wizard's tower, a prison, and I even fought the Ender Dragon in an epic battle. But now I had the elytra, I just had to come back to the cathedral and finish it. I then built an abandoned tower, a watchtower with a burning brazier and an awesome treehouse. But the cathedral still wasn't finished, so I added a lovely interior to the cathedral and built this bridge that leads up to it. And then I framed my most magnificent build with a beautiful set of gardens. But from the story, it was apparent that war would soon fall upon the kingdom. And so I built an armory, and the battle ensued. Somehow, the kingdom is still here. You really have to watch it to know how it survived. But the whole purpose of this channel and of this world is you. I made this channel to help people relax and step away from the real world. A place for all to take a moment of respite. That is the purpose of MorningCraft. And if you ever need a break, we can take it together. But I finish every episode with a quote. So for 1 year, let's take it back to the first quote I used on this channel. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love.